Hello, everybody, and welcome to Transformers Foundation Ed Series Hong Kong edition. My name is Mohsin, and I'm a denim designer based in the UK, and I work together with the Transformers Foundation and many other companies as well. Let me introduce two important people that have made this event happen. Can I welcome on the stage Emily Ola from the Transformers Foundation and Travis from Hong Kong Design Institute. Your microphones are there, guys. So, obviously, this is the third time, Travis, that you guys have done the Hong Kong Design Festival.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mohsin. Thank you, Emily. This is the third time of the Denim Festival in Hong Kong. Yeah, it's the first time after the pandemic. So we are so excited here. Great vibe. It's the third day of the Denim Festival. Yeah.
Well, we're extremely excited to be here, and thank you so much for doing this as well. And I'm sure Emily's got some stuff to say.
Hello? Okay, you can hear me. So thank you all for coming. Just to tell you a little bit about the Transformers Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization focused on advocating and educating on behalf of the denim supply chain in all things having to do with sustainability. Our belief are that the supply chain holds the ticket to innovation when it comes to sustainability, and we believe that they are the true transformers, and that brands and buyers everywhere are the adopters of the technologies from that supply chain. So this is our mission. This is our part of our mission is to educate. We work with many universities all around the world, in London, in Pakistan, in Turkey, in
Brazil,
in Mexico. So we're super happy to be here in Hong Kong to bring you the same type of small program, mini program for HKDI. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Emily. I would like to, on behalf of the Hong Kong Design Institute, to express our gratitude to Emily to bring the Transformer Ad Forum to Hong Kong. Yeah. I would like to also take the time. I would like to also take the opportunity to thank you for all the partners. Yeah. We are thrilled to have present a really exciting lineup for today. Yeah. We got a really exciting topics that across the denim industry. Yep. My gratitude is also going to the different companies, including Advance Denim, yeah, Michael, here, yeah, Tornado, yeah. We got a lot of speakers, specialists also from Crystal Group, Lansing, Stable Textile, Vintage Showroom, we just met, Douglas, the Magics of Denim Consultancies, yep, David. Atelier Reserve. Yeah, it's good to have the brand like Atelier Reserve. Yep. For sharing their expertise. We're so excited. Yeah.
Thank you. No, awesome. So is there anything else you want to say? I think you guys are cool. So let's bring up the actual program for the next couple of hours, so we're quite clear. So we've just done our intros. We're going to have an amazing mill tour from Advanced Denim from the amazing Mark X. That's going to be coming up next. Then we're going to be, speaking to our friends at Tornello. It's going to be fun. Maurizio is going to be doing a nice little presentation for us. Then we've got a panel about circularity, which is going to be really, really fun. Oh, there's Mark. There's Mark now. He's coming up next. We're going to have a panel about circularity, which is going to be really fun with Harold from Lensing, and we got some and Crystal Group and Stella Blue. And then we're going to have an amazing talk by these two denim legends right here, David Tring and Doug Gunn. So that's going to be really fun. And then we're going to end it off with a really nice talk from a really nice sustainable brand. So Atelier and La Reserve. So thank you so much. So no more of me at the moment. Mark, do you want to join us on stage? So Mark's amazing. Absolute denim legend. He made it very clear he wants a really big introduction. So world-knowing expert of fibres, super sustainable, everything he does. He only wears the most sustainable fibres ever. And yeah, he wants me to make him a jacket soon as well. That's what I heard. So yeah. Okay, thank you. And take it away, Mark.
Love that picture. I've aged a little bit, sorry. So my topic today is actually a denim mill tour from Advance Denim. So Advance Denim, so this is the content, introduction, and then the actual denim process. So Advance Denim is the oldest denim mill in China. It's a privately owned company that is an innovative leader for over 35 years with 1,100 employees plus. We've got production facilities in Nha Trang, Vietnam, Xundi, Fushan, China. We have offices in Amsterdam, New York, a brand new office in Los Angeles, Shanghai, and of course, Hong Kong. And you know, Advance Denim's mission from the beginning, and I've been with Advance for, I think, 5 years, as the aim to create the greatest value for our customer with innovation and sustainability. And sustainable fibers and sustainable production is at the forefront of everything we do. We have a pledge to do 90% sustainable fibers in our product line, and we have reached that. So it's all in our greenlet. So you're going to see a lot of sustainability throughout this presentation. And one of the things you have to think about is within the denim process, Amy Wang, who runs Advanced Denim and does all the designs and builds the mills, is looking to solve problems, is looking to take the old ways of making denim and creating new, more sustainable ways. And what you'll see is actually it's turning back time. So it's going back to the ancient ways of doing things rather than the more technically advanced. So in that innovation, we've got over 163 patents. You can see some of our different applications of patents there. Our partners in the industries like Lenzing and Lycra, Kyrene 37.5. So one of the ways that we are building our sustainable production is not just through changing the machinery in the plant, but it's also through partnering with people to create more sustainable products by buying sustainable inputs. And so you can see some of our partners there, some of our customers, well known. And all the exhibitions that we go to, we're probably the linchpin of everything is Kingpins in both Amsterdam and New York, which is the foundation and the calendar of the denim business. And then Premier Vision. And then Intertextile Shanghai, which is just, I don't know what to say. I went there for the first time this year, and it is amazing. You know, the amount of people, the size of the booths, and it is really an impressive show. And we do a lot of collaborations in the business. You can see our little bunnies that we did with Denham, Adriano Goldschmidt doing our denim bags, Advance and Lenzing doing zero cotton, as well as the Matte Tencel. So there's a lot of great brand collaborations that we do. Advance and Levi doing the botanic dyes, and we'll talk about that. And then a really fun one is Vivian Tam, who does a lot of advanced styles and uses a lot of our jacquards, and you can see that flowing through the industry now. And of course, universities, what we're doing here today, we do a lot of work with the HKDI, of course, Hong Kong Polytechnic, Central St. Martin's, Fashion Institute of Technology. And one of the things we want to do is give students the opportunity through events like this and competitions to show what they can do and kind of bring them closer towards the more commercial side of the business. So here to what I'm talking about now that I've gone through that is want to talk about how denim is made. And from the start, what you have to look at is you're basically preparing yarns to be dyed, to be woven. And it goes from spinning to dyeing, weaving, and finishing. This is our capacity. So here's the process. So denim, you know, a lot of people talk about denim as, is it, you know, they can call piece dyes denim, bull denims, but denim really is an indigo dyed warp, natural fill. It can generally is a 3x1 right hand or left hand twill, but the key is your indigo dyed warp. And you know, the fabric process is you're trying to take packages of yarn and then through these steps create a fabric. And so it's important to be able to get the fibers and the yarns into a process where you can dye them, where you can, so the first thing is warping. You're taking those packages on creels and bringing them onto beams. Now there's two ways you can do that. You can warp into ball warps, which look like ropes for rope dyes, or you can do sheet warping onto a beam to go into slasher dyeing. So there's two different ways of dyeing. So then you've got the warping, then the second process is the dyeing, and you're going to take those two separate beams, either the ball warps or the beams, and either do a slasher dye or a rope dye. And then you're going to take that yarn and you're going to, in the case of a ball warp, a rope dye, you're going to separate that out, put it back on a beam, and one of the things that's important is you're going to get it ready for the rigors of weaving. And that's what sizing does. Sizing puts starch onto the individual fibers and separates them and gets it ready for the rigors of you know, the weaving. Then you're weaving, which is almost, if you're looking at selvage looms or rapier looms, depending on the weight, it's a pretty aggressive beat up, a pretty aggressive process. So those yarns have to be protected. And then in the finishing process, you have your final roll of fabric. You're either taking the sizing off, adding a resin, adding a finish there. So this is your basic process. So warping, as I talked about, you're taking the creels, the individual packages, and putting them onto the beam so you can get them ready to dye. So you've got to have those yarns parallel to each other. You have to have them all at the same tension. You've got, it's a lot to go in here. Sorry about that. That was a video that did not work. So there we go. So you can see you've got the creel, you've got all the ends parallel, and you're creating a beam that is going to be used in a slasher dye. So rope dyeing, which you know is really one of the more traditional ways of doing indigo dyeing. You're taking all those yarns and pulling them into a rope, almost looks like a ponytail, and you're dyeing those ropes. As you can see here, there's probably 26 ropes in a row, and you're dyeing it into separate dye baths. And what you're doing is you're dipping it into a box, and then you're skying it and letting it oxidize. So you see in this video that you've got blue, and then as it goes up, as the indigo hits the oxygen, it's turning green and oxidizing, and then you're layering on the indigo. One of the great things about rope dyeing is that at the end, you're going to separate out all those ends, and it's going to create a more even indigo dye across the fabric. So there's less quality issues, the color fastness is better, and it's kind of a tighter space. You don't need as much space to do it. So there you see the preparation of a warp dye, and you get a good picture of the ropes. Now, slasher dyeing is you're adding your sheet of yarns, and what this is going to do, you can do a lot of different colors other than indigo in slashers, but it requires less space because you don't have to have sizing afterwards. And And generally, if you're adding a sulfur top or a different color onto it, you're going to use a slasher dye. And here's a picture of the slasher dye range. So you can see all those ends across that are going to be dipped in indigo and skied over and over again. And then you could add different colors on top of it. So you always have to think of indigos as layering shades. So your first dip is your base layer. It could be a black or an indigo. Your second dip is just adding richness, adding color. As you get to 8, 9, 10 dips, you're creating deep, dark shades, and then you can manipulate those shades with maybe putting a black tint on top or a black layer so it doesn't flare red or gives you more depth. And so one of the things that Advance Dye has done is you've got those slasher dye ranges, you've got those rope dye ranges. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of wash boxes. There's a lot of problems that you can solve. And one of the things that Amy Wang looked at is said, this is too much. How can we do a more sustainable process? And came up with big box dyeing. So where there's 8 to 13 dye baths and 3 wash boxes in traditional indigo dyeing, what Advance has done is put it into one big box. So you're saving 95% of the water, water because 66% of the water consumption, wastewater emissions are down, chemical consumption's down. So, and it's a very flexible machine too that you can do different dye colors. You can do botanic dyes, you can do sulfur dyes in there, but it really creates a more sustainable dye process that uses much less water. And here's the big box. It's just one big box, a contained environment that creates the dye penetration and the layers of color. And one of the things we do in big box and to be more sustainable is botanic dyes. And one of the things you have to think about is before 1860, where Bayer Chemical created synthetic indigo and created sodium hydrosulfite to put that indigo into reduction, natural roots, berries, natural indigo was used to dye yarns. And one of the drawbacks, let's say, is that the color fastness to light is not as good, and you've got some shading issues, but it is really going back to the old ways of doing things. So we've taken that and taken a step back in time and created botanic dyes using madder roots and gardenias, natural indigos and lavenders to give you bright colors, and then putting it into the big box dyeing with less water, and you're creating one of the most sustainable products out there, and giving you bright, really kind of cool shades. So the next process, so that was dyeing. So you've got your slasher dye, your rope dye. So in slasher dye, you're adding sizing after the dyeing. So you're protecting the yarns. So what you have to do in rope dyeing is you have to separate all those yarns, put them on a beam, and then run them through a starch. So what the starch is doing is encapsulating each yarn and getting it ready, because you're going to pull each one of those yarns through what's called heddles. And these heddles are what give you your 3x1 trill construction, your left hand, your right hand, but they're fairly sharp. And then you've got the looms going up and down fairly fast. So those have to be protected so those yarns don't break. And that's what sizing is for. It's basically protecting the product. Look at that, music. And so what those are, so you're separating each one of the yarns, you're adding that starch in a sheet, and then you're breaking all those those metal bars there are called break bars. And what they're doing is they're breaking up the starch and separating out each yarn so it can be put into a heddle, so it's got an independent place, and you're going to create your twills. And everyone's interested in selvage denim. It's a little bit of it's the same process, but when you're putting the filling yarn in, you're using a shuttle. So basically the shuttle is going across the shed, which is the open area, and one of the issues is that it's a fairly narrow production. It's an old loom. It gives you a different chatter. It gives you a whole different kind of vintage look to it, but you also have this selvage because it's a continuous yarn that goes across. So you're able to do like a signature red and white selvage. Advance Denim, most recently for Levi, did a selvage that said Levi 150th anniversary in the selvage, who he wrote in the selvage. So it is, it's just, I mean, it's a more traditional way of doing things, and it makes a great fabric. It's fairly loud, fairly slow. So you can see all that action going on there, and so you can see why you're going to have to protect every yarn throughout the process so it makes it through that. So, basically, selvage looms are great. I actually grew up in a textile family that had probably 2,000 selvage looms in mills, and the problem is, they took up space. They were very slow. You had selvage, shuttles flying all over the place. So in the late 70s, you started getting more, modern ways of doing it. And you came up with rapiers and air jets and projectiles. So a rapier is two little arms coming and through the shed and pulling the yarn through. Air jets are a puff of air that shoots the yarn through. It's very fast. It's very, very good at what it does. But one of the things it does is you don't get that selvage. You don't get that, that continuous yarn. You're cutting every single filling yarn that goes across. And you can get much wider widths. So you get better yields. So I'd say for the denim purposes, probably the most popular loom right now is a rapier loom. You get that balance between the chatter and the speed. So traditional denim constructions. You're probably 80% of the denim out there is a 3x1 right-hand twill. So you've got the twill line going from the top right down to the bottom left. Then you also have the 3x1 left-hand twill. Now what the left-hand twill is doing, it's giving you a softer hand. It's you're not fighting against the twist of the yarn, so it's a smoother hand. But it also has a very different wash down. You've got more of the color gets, more on the warp. So there are drawbacks to both, but the most traditional would be the 3x1 right-hand twill. And then you also have your, you've got your 3x1 right hand, your broken twill, which was basically, I don't know if it's folklore, but it's a Wrangler construction that was basically created to fight skew. So skewing is the twisting of a leg. So you've got all these yarns twisting in one direction, and it needs to go to its natural place. So you've got these twisted legs there. Since you have the twill line going back and forth, it creates a antidote to that twisting. And then you've got your chambray construction, which is basically used for lighter weights. And then one of the last processes is singeing. So you're coming out of that, you're dyeing and weaving, and then what you have to do is get all the short fibers off the face of the fabric. It tends to be very hairy. So fabric that is not singed, you can see long hair sticking out. So what it's really, which seems almost medieval, it's just placing the fabric through a fire of 1200 to 1300 C. That's very quickly burning off those short fibers to have a nice clean fabric. And then you've got desizing and finishing. So if you're going to, add an extra finish on it, a resin or any kind of finish, you're going to have to take that sizing that you put on to protect all those fibers through the rigors of weaving and take that off. And then you're going to have a softer product, and you're going to be able to add any kind of a hand builder or a finish or a softener, or if you want to do printing or anything on there. So you're going to, desize the fabric. And what you're basically doing is running it through wash boxes and just cleaning everything off. And then one of the things you have to do is, we talked about skewing, and one of the big things is, if you do not pre-shrink the fabric, you're going to have a lot of shrinkage in the length of the jean. So you're going to pre-shrink that, and you're going to use a machine that basically jams all those picks in there up in and puts shrinkage already in the fabric. And at that moment too, you can add a little skew to it. So you can combat that twisting. So you've got a bar in there that kind of shifts the skew. And that is the process. So
Thank you.
I'm open for a lot of very simple questions.
Well, we've got about 6 minutes or so. Thank you so much for that. It was such a lovely presentation. And I go to a lot of mills as well. And it's very hard to explain the process, but with videos, it's a lot more easier to understand. So thank you so much for working on that presentation.
You bet.
For us. So are there any questions? We've got about 5 minutes, guys. If not, I'm going to ask a question. Anyone? I'm going to kick it off first. Regarding dyeing, I know there's lots of really interesting things coming through, like bio indigo and less polyester-based dyes. Obviously, we're going back to nature, going back to the old ways of dyeing. What's your thoughts on those processes that are coming through? Are they achievable? Are they very close?
We've looked at a lot of different new dyes. I think the bio hue out of San Francisco is something that's basically fermenting indigo. So if they can figure that out, they're going to change the whole process. They're going to change how indigo is sold, how it's shipped to the customer. Are you able to ferment it on site instead of buying it from a dye star or an indigo producer? I think one of the problems right now is they've been at it for 4 or 5 years, that they can't get the deep, dark shades.
Right.
One of the things is you have 8 to 13 boxes creating layers of shades. What I've seen from them is tinted. It almost seems like a 2-dip or a 2-box indigo. They need some more time to work on it.
It's still a good option though
100%.
For lightweight fabrics or chambrays or other things.
Yes.
Right.
But to have a traditional deep dark indigo, I think they have work to do on the percentage that they're getting out of their fermenting.
Got you, got you. Any questions, guys? Come on. We've got one of the specialists here. Oh, got a question. Okay, I'm going to come over to you and get the mic to you. Please speak loudly.
Hi, thank you very much. In terms of all the processes, what one do you think in sustainability's got the most challenges?
In terms of most challenges, quite frankly, it's dyeing. That is the process that has the most chemistry in there. It traditionally uses the most water. So, you're getting a lot of sustainable inputs from, people like Tencel, people like Renewcell. You're getting a lot of recycled content, so that's happening. So within the manufacturing process, I think where you can reach the most sustainable limits and the most sustainable gains, let's say, is dyeing.
I can add one more thing to that. I've been doing lots of zero waste pattern cutting with jacquard looms, which I know you guys have as well. So
absolutely.
There is other ways. There's every part of a jean, every process can be done slightly better, but dyeing, I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's from our point of view. I think if in the process, washing, there's a lot of innovations coming in the wash side of the product, but that's...
But our friends like Tornello here are one of the leaders of
absolutely.
this, and that's it. That's our segue, I think, going probably into the next person. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. So, okay. So now we're going to be joining literally the laundry revolution with our friends like Tornello. And we've actually got we've also got like Alice here as well, but sort of Maurizio is going to be taking the stand. So I'll let him do it. Welcome and thank you so much for being here in Hong Kong, Maurizio. So
thank you.
Take it away and please like introduce yourself.
Is this fine, Joan? Yeah? Good?
Perfect.
Okay. So, thank you, Mo. Thank you for letting us come here and for inviting us here. So it's a pleasure to be here with you today. So we've been through the process of the production of denim as a fabric, and now we are going through the process of washing a garment. So this is what we do, basically. Let's have a look together at this presentation. Okay, so a bit of information about who we are and what we do. We are an Italian company based in Italy, in Veneto region, which is a very strategic region for denim washing. Everything starts there, in Italy at least. A lot of brands are sitting in this region like Diesel and Replay, so that's why. So we happen to be the right people in the right place at the right moment when we started. It's over 45 years that we produce machine, because we started actually in 1975 with the very first machine that you see over there. It looks like a pizza oven, but actually is a dyeing machine with dividers, with compartment. And here you can see more or less the history of washing, or at least the history of garment finishing from our perspective. So you see largely used still today barrel washing machine, which are there. So we stopped producing this kind of machine in 1984. So we start with front-loading machine which use much less water. So this is the first insight about sustainability and about using less water, less energy, and less chemicals. So since the early 90s at Tonello, we use such kind of machines, so front-loading machine, to optimize the process. And then, as you can see, we went through different steps of the evolution of our history and the evolution of garment finishing history with robots, with lasers, with dyeing machines that use very less water, until the today history, which is the one we are going to see together. So the way we can reduce as much as possible the use of water, energy, and chemicals throughout garment washing processes. In our evolution, we happen to understand that one of the most important things for us was to focus on process So apart from knowing how a technology is made, we had to focus a lot on what is the process our customer do. So understand this help us a lot in learning more about our technology, developing better technologies, and achieving the results that so far Tonello has been achieving over the years. So today, this department, which is the place where we have all our collections displayed and where we do trials, where we have brands, customers visiting us daily, is one of the core departments of the company. Here we see some of the team members, so of course, very important the help of our people to achieve the results we are achieving. So we have dyeing experts, wash experts that are traveling all around the world to actually to teach how to use the technology, because even within the industry, there's a lot of things to learn. Okay, so now we go deep into the presentation. Do you know how much water is normally consumed during the life cycle of a pair of jeans? No. Okay, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to try to tell you. So the water consumption during the life cycle of a pair of jeans, and these are some information that we got from different sources on the web. It happened to be between 3,000 and 9,000 liters of water just for one garment. So this is the entire water amount used during the life cycle of one single pair of jeans. So from cotton harvesting to fiber production to fabric production and washing. Okay, so this is equals to 4 to 12 years of drinking water needed for one person. So you understand immediately that we need to do something on this. Let's have a look more deeply about where this water is used. So 68% of this water is used during the production of a fiber. 9% of this water is used in the finishing phase, which is the step we belong to. And unfortunately, up to 23% of this water consumption is happening in our houses. So there are a lot of people that are washing a pair of jeans just after one single use. So this is something that we should change, because also from our side at home, we can do a lot to use much less water during the life cycle of a pair of jeans. I'm back. Okay, so now let's have a look at the traditional way of finishing. So in the traditional way of finishing, to achieve a look like this one, so a medium to light color, we normally do all these steps here. So manual scraping, PP spraying, stone washing, bleaching, rinsing, and softening. So to achieve this look, during washing, so during the production phase of a garment, during the washing phase, we use up to 150 and 300 liters of water. So this is the amount of water that we use during the washing of a garment, so during the finishing of a garment. And this is the situation that we, as Tonello, would like to change and would like to improve. These are some examples of the phases that we have during a traditional washing of a pair of jeans. Some of these steps are really dirty, and some of these steps are really not actual. So something that we have to change, and we can change with the actual technology. So is there a more responsible way to wash a pair of jeans? Yes, there is. Okay, cool. So we have seen in the slide before some of the operations that are needed to produce a garment in a traditional way, so manual scraping, all the washes phases and so on, PP spray. So in the new vision, or in the more actual vision of a finishing of a pair of jeans, the Tonello approach, at least, is this one. So we can substitute all the manual operation like scraping with laser. We can substitute a lot of hazardous chemicals and a lot of operations that are currently done by manual, again, with a washing machine. And in our case, is this all-in-one system. So we try to put together all the steps into a single washing machine so that the garments do not need to be moved inside a factory from one technology to another. So we do all the wash steps in a single machine. And then, of course, today is very important to know and to analyze what we are doing. That's why we have a software which is directly connected to the technologies. And this software is giving us real data on water consumption, energy consumption, and carbon footprint. So in a way, this is our approach to digitization. And the future is going to be even more related to automation. So we want to work as much automatic as possible. In a laundry, there are still some steps where people have to pull trolleys, load manually garments into a washing machine. So the next step would be to have this operation done automatically. So let's have a look more deeply about these technologies today and to understand how they work. So from the traditional manual scraping, today we can do a very nice aesthetic, and we can develop something very close to this manual operation by laser. So basically the laser is burning superficially the garment and allowing us to achieve a similar look to the one we achieve by manual scraping. So this is the operation we are doing. Then all these steps that are, again, using hazardous chemicals to achieve a local discoloration of garments, like the first picture over there, PP spray. Stone wash with pumice stone, which is again a very not responsible practice, still largely used today in our industry. And the use of hazardous chemicals can be today replaced while achieving a beautiful aesthetic with this kind of machine. So with a machine that have different technologies installed, like, sorry, I need to go back, like systems to allow water savings, systems that allow to avoid the use of pumice stones, and systems that use ozone as a gas to do the bleaching, so to allow the discoloration of indigo. And as I mentioned before, something very important today is to measure what we are doing. So to be sure that whatever we are doing in our laundry, in our workplace, can be further analyze, further improve, and this is the purpose of the software we develop, which is called Metro. So Metro is a system which is directly connected to the machine, pulling out all the information from the technologies about water use, energy use, and carbon footprint. And this is important today. So, to recap a little bit, by using these existing technologies, we can do and we can achieve a similar look to the one we achieved at the very beginning of a presentation that we display, that was achieved by using 150 to 300 liters of water. The same look can be achieved with less than 15 liters of water today. So it's a huge improvement. So we can cut by at least 10 times the water usage during the finishing step. And this is, again, a very good achievement. Let's now
Have you ever
see
wondered how
this
much
video.
washing and dyeing a garment actually consumes? Metro is the first honest software because it automatically records the real consumption during the washing and finishing processes of a garment. This software collects energy data in a transparent and reliable way, accurately tracking the amount of water. And then, at the end, it even calculates the carbon footprint relative to the finishing of your garment. Metro reports everything on a tag so that it not only helps to make the process more efficient, but it also makes choosing the garment more responsible. Metro by Tonello. Nothing but the truth.
Cool. Okay, these are some examples of our technologies around the world. Some production happening in Pakistan, in Europe, some of our machines which are available at the development centers of important brands like Uniqlo in Los Angeles, and again another workplace in Europe which has been established in the last few years. So this is the reality, this is what is going on. So one of the challenges we have today in our industry is also to find people who is willing to work in our industry. So one of the challenges we have as a technology producer is to create a working environment which attract young people to it. That's why we have beautiful examples like these, where you can see that the laundry is not the dirty place we have seen in the previous picture. So the laundry today can be a place where we can work in a responsible way and by achieving significant results and meaningful results in a responsible way. These are some other examples of where our machines are available. So we have some brands that are using our machine for their internal workshop. Some of them happen in China too, in Beijing, in Korea, for example, with CP Company. This is another good example of an Italian producer who is also a brand, Candiani. They have a customization shop in Milan, which is working very nicely. So the approach to the consumer as well is also very important. So to let the consumer understand what is going on in our industry. And of course, our approach is also very much connected to art and with designers. So we like to have this kind of contamination. We did so many very nice projects in the past and also recently. One of them was displayed at the last Kingpins in Amsterdam, the Sake project or Sake project. It was very nice. So we like this kind of contamination, and we believe it's very important, and it's very nice for you as well as students to see something different in our industry. Some other examples of collaborations that Tonello had with designers, which are on catwalk. So, yeah, these are other examples. So this is what we do and what we try to do.
Thank you so much. Just stay there for a second. We can sit down again. We've got about 10 minutes or so. We've got some questions now. I'm going to kick off, so do raise your hand if you want questions. I've been a designer for 20 years, and I remember having 20 to 30 steps in my wash recipes. They would last days and days. You have to wait for so much time. But now you guys can cut the process so fast and do it so sustainably. So you think the next steps are even more like automation, right? That's what you think?
Yeah, we think so. We have to be pragmatic as well and understand that laundry is still a place where, a little bit of water is on the floor. So maybe some obstacles can be on the floor. So we need to work in a way that automation can really be effective in such an environment. So, and we have to be honest, there are situations today where people are still using machines manually with all the steps that you mentioned. So we need to, it's a long time approach, but we need to get there sooner or later.
But what's amazing is I've been to a lot of laundries that use your machines, and they're such beautiful environments. And most of, if not all, the technology you use can be put into a town center. It doesn't have to be in industrial environment now, right? These machines are now in shops as well. So
yeah. True. Yeah, the only important thing, the only issue that you have to take care is about the water, and then find a way to store the water and to treat this water after the process, because this is something that is still needed. But yes, there are a lot of ways to put our technology in such an environment like a shop and make sure it's safe. It can create something meaningful for the consumer, which is today very
obviously,
nice.
you do lots of other machines as well that are smaller. So for any young designers here who might in the future want to buy a small laser machine or small wash, it's possible, right?
It's possible and more or less accessible. But we are fully open to study the best solution for each and every one. Our environment, our company is open, so we really like to work on such projects and to have students. The educational part, we believe, is really very important. That's why we created this R&D center and this creative area, which is really a gathering place for many people.
Amazing. Okay, please raise your hand, guys. We've got another 5 minutes or so. Anyone's got a question? Questions about washing? Okay, same. Okay, one second. There's a mic coming towards you now.
Sorry, I'm always going to have a question. You've obviously invested a huge amount as a supplier, and without a doubt, you're innovating and leading in innovation. So I'm just wondering, do you bring it to brands? Do brands come to you for that? How do you incentivize brands to really invest with you and partner with you to make changes faster?
This is very, very important. Actually, both ways. So we try to reach brand as much as possible with trade shows, and the Kingpins is a very good example for it. We also travel to see brands, our own. We try again to have, even with brands, an educational approach, because at the end of the day, brand is the customer of our customer. So the respect goes to our customer first, and what we try to say and tell to brands is what is the true. So what is happening then on the floor. So we are not going there, with marketing buzzwords saying you can do this and you can do that when this is not possible. So we try to be as much as transparent as possible in the communication with brands, and we try to, again, educate them in the right way. So what is today possible, we have seen it's a huge step towards a better future, and there is still a lot of work to do. We really hope that brands can support us in this, because, again, this is their call mostly,
But most of the time, it actually becomes more viable to become more sustainable, having all those processes and chemicals, and now we have to verify everything. Every chemical has to be transparent where it comes from. So sometimes it's even easier to go to this method of now washing, right?
True, absolutely, yeah. Today I know a few examples of companies that only work, let's say, in a responsible and sustainable way, and they don't even tell to brands, because brands, they may feel like or think that, this guy is going to charge me more. But the reality is that there's no other way today to produce unless you use a responsible way or a sustainable way, at least in many different places. Not all over the world, but in many different places.
Got ya. Okay, and one more question, guys. If not, I'm going to ask one. One more question. Okay, how do you feel, it's a funny trick question, all this automation, how is it going to be? If everything's automated, are there still going to be jobs for us as designers and technicians?
No, I don't think so. For some very manual operation, maybe yes.
Artisan approach.
Yes, but the reality is that this kind of technology require more skilled people, so this is also an opportunity. Our work floor is still a place where we need people, and people are very, very important. So creativity of people and so on. So the laser, you know very well, is nothing when you don't have a good pilot. So you can't create anything. And the same happens for a washing recipe or a washing machine. So we still need good people.
So the like human factor is still needed.
Always.
Always.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank
Yes.
you so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Thank you again. So I'm going to just shift myself over here. We're going to do our next panel, which is quite exciting. It's going to be our like panel about like circularity. Can I please welcome on the stage Kyle from the Crystal Group, Harold from Lensing, and also Nicola from Stella Blue, please. If you can all come to the stage, that would be awesome. You got your waters there as well, and make sure you got your microphones. Hello, sir. How are you? Good man. All right, then. This is going to be fun. So, let's introduce you guys first. So, if you want to, okay, we got Kyle from the Crystal Group. You're a manufacturer, correct? And yeah, that's true. And then we got like Nicola from Stella Blue. You're also a manufacturer, but also a mill, from my understanding, correct? Mill, you're right. And we've got Lensing here, one for like tensile fiber and all the other amazing sustainable fibers as well. Thank you so much for like coming. I'm going to go straight into the sort of questions. So I'm going to ask each of you first of all, and I'll start with like ladies first. How important is like circularity to you personally and for your company?
Yes, circularity is, of course, is very important to us because, as we know, the resources in the world is very limited, but we already consume a lot every day. If we don't think about how to get use of the resources that we have and try the best to reuse it, or find some method to use the wastage into the new materials and put it into our daily life, then it will be a problem, because we always say good time is good, old time is good, but I don't want to hear the old time bring us some disaster at the end.
Sure, that's true. And for you, sir, in the middle?
Yeah, of course, circularity is, I think, the top two most important agenda, I mean sustainability agenda at Crystal, and another one is climate change. So make a guess, how many tons of fabric waste that we generated every year at Crystal? It's over 16,000 tons of fabric waste that we generate at Crystal across 5 countries in 25 factories. So we see a lot of room that we can improve there. And in addition, I think circularity is also complementing with our carbon reduction targets, because once we help to achieve circularity, we can also reduce our Scope 3 emissions, including the materials, also the waste management. So this is why this is important to us.
Okay, and Harold, and for just for transparency, I work for Lensing. Harold, for like Lensing's point of view, and for you personally, how is it in your point of view? How important is that circularity for you guys?
Yeah, I would agree with Nicole that circularity is very important. I mean, it's really one of the key things, also as Kyle was saying, next to climate change. And I believe that we as an industry, we are largely linear. And that is something that really needs to change. We really need to become circular. And whether it's about recycling or upcycling or rentals or whatever, there's so many things that we can do to become circular. So for me personally, I always look at, okay, what do I really need? What can I reuse? Can I buy reused materials? Can I buy recycled stuff? And I think that's something we can do much more as an industry. I believe we as a denim industry, there's a lot which we can do.
Because as a resource, recycled fibers, it's such a small percentage that we do recycle, really. So it's
I mean, if anyone knows how many percent, yeah, tell me. 1%.
1%, yes, was what 1%.
That's it. That's shocking, isn't it? I mean, if you think about it, that of all the clothes that we buy worldwide, that only 1% is recycled. This is something. That's what I mean with we have a linear industry, and we need to make sure that this industry is becoming circular. And there's so many things which we can do.
So that's a great segue to the next question. I'm going to start with you, Harold, and we'll go down the line. What types of initiatives is Lensing doing actively to promote and stick to its goals really for sort of circularity?
Well, we first of all, it starts with the raw materials. So our raw materials are made from wood, and they are 100% biodegradable and compostable. So that helps also a circular economy, afterlife. Secondly, we also participate in a lot of initiatives, and we also have our own, like Refibra technology, which is made from 30% post-consumer waste, and we don't stop there. So we believe we can go to 50%, and that's also our target to move finally to all our fibers having at least 50% content of recycled materials. But if we do that, I mean, Lensing is a €2.5 billion company. That sounds big, but we only have 1% of the entire industry. So even if we would do that, it won't be enough.
You're not even scratching the surface. Yeah.
Exactly. So I really believe that we need to work together. And if there's one thing about the denim industry, I would say two things. It's super creative, and it feels like a family. And I believe that this is what is required to get out of this situation and get to a higher degree of circularity. And so we should be able to just have this down.
Okay, and Kyle, what kind of things is your company doing to actively promote circularity?
Yeah, I think similar to Lensing, we are taking a multi-pronged approach, ranging from sustainable materials, then to product development through to the post-industrial waste handling. Starting with our material consumption, we have tried our best as far as practicable to embed sustainable materials into our product development. Then, regarding product design, we feel blessed that our denim division, we have a full house of talent, creative, young designers there. And every year, they devoted their time and efforts to think of new development concepts regarding circular and sustainable denim products. And over the years, I think they have successfully launched a series of eco-collections, which got a pretty good feedback from our customers. And finally, regarding the post-industrial waste treatment and disposal, at Crystal, we are committed to diverting all our production waste away from the landfill and incineration. And so far, out of 25 factories, we already have 2 factories, one in Vietnam and another one in China. They have already achieved this zero operational way to landfill. I think this is a big milestone to our operation, and now we are thinking how to really expand this kind of good practice across all our factories, expanding in 5 countries. So that's what we are doing and achieved it right now.
Very impressive. And sort of like Nicole at Stella Blue, obviously you're a mill. So what sort of initiatives are you guys trying to promote and trying to implement?
Yes, Stella Blue. Since I joined Stella Blue, then I think that they already inject this kind of sustainability and circularity into their blood, because they think it is not something in the chain, it's something we have to do. So from the raw material side, of course, we use some regenerative fiber, let's say some Refibra from Lensing, the Tencel, and then we also use recycled cotton from pre-consumer or even post-consumer, depends on the customer request. And also, we try our best to use some, let's say polyester. Before we say recycled polyester, but what is it? Where is it from? So we are quite serious on this topic. We have to find some recycled polyester which is really good and not use too much harmful chemical to make to melt it. And then of course during the dyeing method, we use more and more liquid indigo, let's say from Acroma or Dye Star, and we also have to use some example to tell our customer why we have to do it. Then we take some old traditional dye method from our from previous collection, and the one which we use in this kind of liquid dyeing, and make some comparison. How much they can reduce in the water, how much time we can reduce in certain kind of washing. we use different example and also make it practical in our collections. And then in the production wise, of course, we have to, or we already do it for every development, not only the innovative in the visualize, and also the things, the message we pass to the customer, how we can do better. Let's say we are now working on new development, maybe we need brand new, it will be launched in mid of November. I didn't have much here, but it's something to show a new page to the customer, how we can reduce the usage of water, maybe over 90%, and how we can still inject our innovative idea into the denim production.
So what, I'm going to stay with you in a minute. I'm going to stay with you now. But what kind of milestones have you seen recently that have been really amazing that you've implemented, like things that are, you know, the main milestones that you've achieved in like sort of like circularity?
I think right now more in the people around our denim industry, they discuss more because before maybe they are quite conservative. They want to keep all the things inside, in-house. Right now, like this kind of the seminar or some information sharing, we all happy to share what we learn, or no matter it's good or not, and to exchange some more idea to improve. And also, even in the consumer point of view, we can see the brand or some educational or even from the material side to the mill or from the brand, we all passing the same message, which I haven't seen maybe in the past 5 years. Right now, I can see many shops around is telling the same things. It's good.
I think what's amazing about our denim industry is that we do meet on a regular basis, but we do share knowledge. So that's what's nice about our community, right, Harold? So, Harold, obviously, what are the learnings that we should, from other industries, that are we implementing lots of learnings from other industries in our field? We must be, right? The food industry is a very good example of that. So
definitely, yeah. Although food has similar issues, but we'd need half an hour to talk about that. But if you think about, our industry, like I said, it's too much linear, and we need to be more circular, and other industries have shown examples where it is possible. But I would say that even more so, we need to, yes, circularity in total, but transparency for me is a key topic here, because that is what is lacking. If you think about our industry, with $22 trillion revenues in the industry, that's the biggest industry in the world, bigger than automotive, bigger than consumer electronics. But yet we are one of the most, let's say, less concentrated industries and very intransparent because of the long value chain. And that's something I believe is very important, that we are achieving a higher degree of transparency, because that will give us also, that will show us where the waste is and where we can improve the industry in terms of sustainability and circularity, of course.
And so, Harold, obviously, you know, you guys are a manufacturer, so a lot of your clients and customers want that transparency as well, to make sure they know exactly where everything is coming from, correct? So it's becoming quite standard now to implement some of these things. Harold, for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's, yes, our customers want it, but also because they are driven to it, regulation is changing, and authorities demand a higher degree of transparency. If you see specific laws in France, or whether it's the EU or in California or in China, there is a clear drive. What Nicole also saying, things are coming together, you know, in a certain flow. So there is demand from consumers about where are what are these materials, what is inside, where are my clothes are made from, but also from regulatory side, from authorities, saying, okay, we need to have a higher degree of transparency.
So my final question to all of you guys, what can we be doing better going forward? Obviously, we're still at the beginning of this journey. There's so much more we can achieve. So what can we do slightly better? Or at least have like a vision in place of what we're trying to do?
Maybe believe the collective initiative is we have to enhance it because as we know, this industry, we are in different small part. If we can share more information, maybe we can work more and collaborate more, then it can help the circularity progress can go further and more solid.
Okay, and for you, Howard?
Yeah, I think lots of achievement that have been witnessed over the past years in denim industry. But to do better, I would like to highlight 2 points. First of all, I would like to add on what Harold just shared regarding the change of regulations. Because, for example, CBAM or the EU Eco Design directives, we have to ask ourselves, are we really make ourselves ready for this kind of changes? So I think the key is about how can we build a model that can be fully transparent to account for the poor environmental footprint along the whole value chain. This is what we are also thinking right now at Crystal. So we are not going to do it in a bit and piece way, but how can we fully integrate it, the development and the efforts linking up with the other manufacturing partners, with the brands. That's, I think we can do better. And the second point I would like to highlight is regarding the awareness in some of our production countries. For example, at Crystal, we have 5 production countries, but I can tell you that the awareness regarding how to really unleash the intrinsic value of waste is quite different and quite varied in different countries. So they just simply send the unsorted waste to the waste contractor without really enhance their value, enhance the quality to get the waste ready for the valuable recycling or upcycling. I think this is another point we have to enhance in the coming future. Thank you.
Okay, and you, sir, what learnings or?
For me, 2 things. One is collaboration and the other is education. Collaboration because, like I said before, even we as a company, we can be as green and as good as we can, but it will not, make a huge difference. So we really need to collaborate. The change cannot be made just by one party. We need to do it throughout the whole value chain and all together. And I think that's something which this industry, the denim industry, is particularly known for. So that's something we can do ourselves. Second is the education, because I really believe there's still a lot of awareness to be created. Like Kyle was also saying, there's a lot of greenwashing in the industry. We need to create awareness of what is really circularity about and what is it not, because that's important.
I think it's important also to educate, or to get the younger generation to think like this from the beginning. Obviously, we've had the benefit of not worrying about where the fibres come from or what chemicals we've used. And
the younger generation, you're pointing to David.
I'm pointing to David, sorry, the students behind him. But it's just, when I was a designer, I didn't think of any of this. I was just designing a beautiful wash. I didn't really care where things came from. I just copy that wash, do that. So now it's young designers have got more difficult tasks, but actually not so difficult. It's just a different way of thinking. So yeah, it's just,
That's true, and for me the same. I also, if you would ask me 10 years ago, I didn't have a clue, Yeah. And I won't say I'm perfect now, but I'm trying, and at least I know. And what I see, and that's something good at a newer, younger generation, they are much more, for them it's almost like a default,
No, most of the younger generation I teach in the UK, they're quite angry with our generation. They're like, why haven't you been doing this from the beginning? Why are you using that fibre? They get really angry about it. So I'm excited what this generation is going to do. Have we got any questions, guys? We've still got 10 minutes or so. Any questions about circularity? Okay, Mike's coming towards you slowly. And thank you so much for raising your hand.
I'm closer. I wanted to touch on the 1% of the closed loop, clothing to clothing, the recyclability, and are any of you doing anything on the reverse part of the supply chain at the moment? Because I know a lot can be done upstream, and it is being done. You're a proof of that. But post-consumer, as we try to figure out the visibility that happens on that, and to get it back into the supply chain as legislation changes and as you are needing to do that, what do suppliers do to take that back into the loop?
if I may, I hope I answer your question with that. But yeah, with the Refibra technology that we have developed, at first we started with pre-consumer waste, so post-industrial waste, 20% and then 30%. Now we are at the phase that we can, and we are already doing post-consumer waste. So basically, we turn fibers, we collect them, we turn them back into virgin fibers, and they come at the same quality as new fibers. So there is no trade-off, and we won't stop there. So that is one thing. But I think there's a lot of other initiatives which are not so really close to us. But you know, if you buy vintage clothes, that is also creating another loop. So there's not just one loop. There's multiple loops that can be taken throughout the whole value chain and throughout the whole journey. We're trying to do our bit in there, but maybe my partners have some other ideas.
Yeah, actually, we have also done a lot on, as a manufacturer, garment manufacturer. We have thought of how to deploy our corporate waste management strategy in order to enhance the value, the quality of the cut waste that have been generated every day from operations. But sadly, I have to tell you that to achieve full circularity, it's a journey. It takes time, because right now some of the waste infrastructure or the recycling network in some of our operating countries is yet to be well established. But we are also making efforts to how to engage the policymakers, how to build a local recycling network in order to achieve the true circularity. I think, yeah, we anticipate time will be required, but we are making efforts on it.
I've got a question. I know you're going to go next, but my question quickly is, I'm going to jump in, is that I've heard to achieve a better quality recycled fiber, you're using more industrial waste rather than post-consumer waste. So a lot of suppliers are opting for their own waste rather than going to the market to find the post-consumer. Is that correct?
It does happen, and it is right that, you know, there's limitations in terms of what can you mechanically recycle. But I still think we're far away. There's so many ways of circularity, you know, which we can do, and it shouldn't stop us from what we're doing.
Yes, I agree, because first of all, I agree that most things that by using the pre-consumer is better in quality, because we can control what is it from. For those post-consumer, maybe something we take it from this area, that area, but actually we don't know what is it. But of course, in our collection, we also use that kind of the recycled garment. Yes, we have one kind of recycled polyester which is taken from the recycled garment, and then we taken out the polyester component and spin it into the yarn, and also mix with our cotton and do it and launch in our collections.
By the way, I just want to say it's a great question, because that's a true challenge in circularity. How can we create multiple loops? Because one of the big problems in our industry is the waste we create, and we need to somehow avoid that. We as consumers, we buy 3 to 4 times more clothes than our previous generation, and that results into 130,000 million tons of garbage every year. That's one garbage truck every second. So, you know, this is something, it's not sustainable.
Any other questions, guys? Got about 5 minutes left. Any other questions? If not, we're gonna... Oh, Tunjai, please.
Hello. I'm asking everyone because it's a tough question. I think as denim industry, we've done for the last 10 years minimum a lot of things, but yeah, okay, sorry about it. I think that from my end, whatever I read on press or whatever I see, to engage with the end user is something difficult. For instance, Harold said we've got a lot of waste. Why? Because we buy a lot, more than enough. So all these things, what we do as an industry, there should be a response from the end user side. So they should be rewarding all these well-made jeans versus cheap-made or non-responsible made jeans. So how can we increase the awareness on the end user so that they make better choices? I mean, this is not an easy question, but I just want to hear anyone has any idea, because this, I mean, we can make as a industry some things, we can progress more. We've seen today what Tonello did, all these initiatives in Advance. This is great, but there should be a response from the end user so that we fulfill the task. So what can we do more to embrace them more?
Nicole, you would like to go first? Okay, I can go first. Actually, yeah, it's a tough question, and it's a long-standing questions to the industry. And I think as a manufacturer, we have to really think about how to collaborate with our brand's customer, because we do see, I mean, in terms of business opportunity, we do see the blue ocean there, right? Regarding circular product design, regarding sustainable product, but from the end customers, do they really see the value? Are they really willing to pay the premium regarding the environmental or sustainability attributes originated from those product design? I think we are doing something to do the end consumer education together with our brand customers. But yes, progress have to be expedited. I agree with that. But yeah, so back to the question, how can we link up the whole supply chain and our brand customers? I think it's very key that we have to further do more on this aspect.
I have one trick question for you guys. If we made amazing product that was so good quality and we didn't need to throw it away anymore, then we'll have less of this problem that we're in, right?
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, we are in an industry, denim industry, some people, they keep their denims for life, you know? So we are already, in that sense, a good example. By the way, also, there are some people who never wash the denim, you know, never, ever. Oh, here's one. So, yeah, I think there's a lot which we can do, but I believe, indeed, education of consumer is important. And what can we do? I think that's why I raised that point also. We need to educate, you know, and also make sure that it's fact-based. It's not just, you know, greenwashing. And there's a lot of greenwashing in this industry. Governments also do sometimes things, you know. What we see is that there's a lot of talks also about raising taxes on, for example, virgin materials. So then it will become more expensive. So it will drive to buying, let's say, more recycled materials. Lots of things which we can do. I don't have there's no silver bullet for it, but I believe there's many industries, or many initiatives.
Yeah, and one point I would like to add is regarding the product label. On the markets, we have seen different kinds of eco-green label that has been put on the tag of products. Even, I think lots of end consumers, even my wife, she doesn't know what does it mean. So regarding the integrated system of those kind of eco-labeling, is there any simpler way that we can penetrate the true meaning of sustainability to an end consumer? I think that's something we can help to trimming or simplify in the future.
Education is very important. I think we cannot put the responsibility only on the raw material side or the mill side or the manufacturer side. It should be among all of the stakeholders in our industry, even in the brand, the customer, and also the policy maker. Because if only one of us cannot do it or don't believe it, all the things we are talking about is not realistic.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it is a concern, especially some of these policymakers are sometimes polyester like lobbyists. So we you know, there's lots of other problems going on here. But I think that might be calling for today. Any other questions before we move on, guys? Any other questions about circularity? Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so now you got an amazing team presentation happening from the amazing David Tring from the Magic of Denim Consultancy and Mr. Doug Gunn from the Vintage Showroom in London. If you're ever in London, make sure you visit his showroom. Oh my God. So these guys have got a nice presentation. If you guys want to come to the center of the stage, I'm going to give you, there should be 2 microphones somewhere. I don't know where they've gone. I've got one as well, so maybe you can take mine, Doug.
Good afternoon. Hi. I'm quite, woo, rock and roll. I'm quite emotional today, I have to say. When we started to plan the Denim Festival, it was about a year ago, and Hong Kong was still in lockdown. We were in masks. We were planning on Zoom, and it wasn't a great environment for everybody. And one of my dreams was that we focused on sustainability, we focused on education, and a really big dream was, for the first time ever, we got the Transformers organization coming into Hong Kong. And I'm just so happy and emotional that they've come today, and they've brought the industry with them. What I love about this industry is that, yeah, it's an industry, but we're a community. And what you probably don't realize is a lot of the people presenting are competitors. They're actually, is it really in their interest to share all this information with each other and put all this public information out there? But it is a community. We do share, and it's the thing I'm most grateful for. We get tremendous support, not just here, but all around the world. The industry comes together and talks. So today, what we haven't discussed yet is creativity. And many of the students are design students that are here today. So what Doug and I are going to talk a little bit about is, where does that inspiration come from? Obviously, here in Hong Kong, we are surrounded by luxury malls, luxury brands. And how do those brands build their collections? They've got those rock star designers. In fact, these days, some of them are actual rock stars, with Pharrell coming into the industry. But how do they get their ideas? What are they inspired by? And that's what we're going to be looking at today. And we call this From Vintage to Vogue. So we won't be voguing on the stage, that I can promise you, even if there is a request from Redress to do that. So to get us kicked off, I want to introduce you to Doug Gunn from the Vintage Showroom in London. Right. They provide a unique service to brands and designers and to students. So Doug, tell us a little bit about your company.
Thank you. So this was me a few years ago, so I used this as a get back to the gym kind of photo. But this is me and Roy, my business partner, who couldn't travel with me. We started the business some 17 years ago. We both were vintage collectors, both had vintage clothing businesses. And what we saw was an opportunity to create almost like a library museum of vintage design. And we're talking clothes from sort of 1850s to the 1970s generally. So talking about luxury, the late great Karl Lagerfeld described us as the place for inspiration in an interview he did in 2014. And that's something that we're incredibly proud of, and we've always tried to live up to. And that's kind of what we try and inspire. We try and inspire our customers. And that's why people come to us and visit. This was our old shop, sadly gone. It was one of the oldest shop fronts in London that was pretty much remained untouched. It was listed in Vogue to tie up to the title of today's show. We were one of their favorite 20 stores around the world. It was one of those beautiful old London shop fronts that was constantly being photographed. We were there 10 years. It shut during the pandemic, sadly. But so popular, we actually took it with the Kingpins. We actually did a pop-up version of it in Hangzhou on the Kingpins China tour in 2016. And we actually this was in collaboration with a Turkish denim mill, Ultra Anadolu. And we actually turned the inside into a museum of some of the images from our archive. So this is kind of what it looks like on a good day once we've tidied up. We've got something in the region of 100,000 unique pieces across men's and women's, everything from tailoring to denim, workwear, militaria. And we usually work with fashion designers who come, and they might give us a starting point. It might be at the end of their collection. They might be looking for a fresh input of ideas. They could be looking for fabric ideas, for wash ideas, for detail, looking at old clothing. And I think...
Doug, that's not denim.
That isn't denim. No, there is some denim in here somewhere. But I'll show you some denim links that are this was some of the denim looks we've done for the Kingpins over the years. So I guess what I want to do is, if you're a student, is to try and engage a sense of curiosity with you. Because when we work with students in the UK, it's all about encouraging them to think outside the box a little bit. And it might be hard to look at old clothes and think, how does that tie up to luxury? But a lot of the creative directors we work with want to look at period clothing and then it's all about archetypes of style, and take ideas from them and generate new conceptual ideas from it. So we've written a couple of books. I'm going to send copies to David, so you'll have at least one copy in your library at the Institute. These were sold around the world, won awards, very proud of them. You can probably find a lot of the shots online, to be honest. And we've got a very open house philosophy with students. A lot of my best customers are people I met when they were studying at a fashion college, and they've stayed with us all through their careers. So if any of you find yourselves in London, we do monthly sketching sessions for students. You can come in, we'll talk to you about the pieces from our collection. You can sketch while you're there. And we also do visits from universities as well. So first time I really worked with David was in 2017. We were actually lucky enough to do a History of Lee presentation. And we had, I think it was something like 30, 40 visitors from Hong Kong and mainland China come and visit us. And we did an immersive kind of History of Lee session with them then. And that was really when I first sort of understood that, from David's point of view, from being someone in the industry, your passion for vintage clothing and how you were really interested in that storytelling element. So, shall I pass it over?
Yeah, so vintage has been part of my life, I think, ever since I've had a life, to be honest. This is a photo from Bread and Butter, the trade show back in 2004, and I'm with Watanabe-san, one of my great friends from Japan, and we were working to reposition the Wrangler brand in Europe. And the aim was to take it up, not down. So many brands want to get more volume and are always looking down. We wanted to look up. And to do that, we had to rediscover the brand history, build an archive of product, and then start replicating that product. So it's not just about the single garment, it's the stories that come with those. And I'm always fascinated by what was the designer thinking when they created this product? What was the purpose? Most denim, like workwear and military clothing and hunting, is designed for purpose. There's a reason that pocket is positioned exactly where it is. And those are the things we try to delve in to understand more. The journey started for me way back, actually. In the 80s, I was a buyer for H&M, and we were hunting all over the world for vintage clothing, for inspiration. We'd be in Tokyo, New York. New York was crazy in those days because there's no internet, so you're going into quite bad areas, into thrift shops, just trying to find some bit of blue gold. And probably the best thing is the Pasadena Rose Bowl Market, which this photo's taken from. That's just south of LA. It's the second Sunday of every month. And at some point in your careers, I really hope you get that opportunity to travel to America. Hopefully it's more safe than it is right now. The Rose Bowl is just this world's biggest flea market. And in there you can find everything. Americana of every shape and description. You have to get there early. This is my tip. You know, most people get there around 9, 10 o'clock and start shopping, and they think they've found the gold. But the gold is already gone by 8 o'clock in the morning. The show opens at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's dark, when they're setting up. And if you're really smart, you go there with a torch and you start hunting the stands as they're starting to put everything together. And that's when you find the really good vintage pieces. So, just a little tip. I find a lot of people, when we talk about vintage, and I'm sure Doug gets the same question, it's like almost they'll be like, oh, that's beautiful, how much does it cost? And I am not interested, The value for me is nothing to do with what somebody's willing to pay for it. The real value of vintage to designers and creative people is what we can learn, the history of the product. How can we help to inform ourselves to design better products? How do we create the products of the future archive? Imagine as young students today, one day you'll be working in companies. Imagine that you design a product that other people are looking at in 20 or 30 years' time and also learning from. I think that's the true value of vintage, is what we can learn. And this is what designers at these big brands are using for inspiration. You know, we all know this guy, or we should. This is Nigo, founder of Bathing Ape, you know, Human Made, and recently really hot. Nigo is a huge fan of Americana vintage and one of the world's big collectors. When Kenzo, right, Kenzo, luxury brand, been pretty dormant for the last decade, I would say. They brought Nigo in, and just magical move, I would say, because Nigo went straight into their archive, started to look about from the Kenzo archive what could be reinterpreted. He also then went and looked at his own archive and Americana and how could he blend those together with that Japanese magical way of thinking that they have. They just interpret things in such a special way. So I think this is the way brands work. And if I understand right, Doug, Nigo actually came over to your showroom when he was starting Human Made.
Yeah, this was not long. I mean, we started in 17 years ago, so 2007. So this was quite early on in our studio career. And so he was actually doing press. He was just launching Human Made at the time in London. So they did a big kind of interview press day with us, with him shopping vintage in our studio. So it was really great to meet him and have him in the space. And I've always admired his work, from Bathing Ape to especially what he's doing at Kenzo now. I mean, I think it's really important that a lot of brands out there, if they're not looking at vintage, they're looking at the luxury brands that are being inspired by vintage, and that filters down, it trickles down to more high street brands. So everyone's looking, looking around.
So that brings us up a little bit to what we want to talk even deeper about now, and that's at the Hong Kong Design Institute. We have an amazing archive that's been put together over the last 9 or 10 years. These are some of the items out of the archive, and they're available for students to go in and learn and get educated around what these great designers are doing. Let's have a look on the next one. So in the archive, and we'll focus today on just 3 of these amazing designers. I mean, Gaultier's up there, Jean-Paul Galliano. I mean, these are incredible designers. And these are also the kind of people that work with Doug, coming together to get inspiration, you know. This is one of them. This is the Christian Dior jacket, done by Gian Galliano. It's probably, about 10, 15 years ago now when he was at Dior. And there's just some magical inspiration in here. And Doug, I think you can tell us a little bit about where you think the inspiration came from.
Yes, I mean, Galliano is one of those legendary British designers. He's probably one of the most influential designers of the last 50 years, in my opinion. Incredibly creative. He's at Margiela now. If you look at what they're doing at Maison Margiela, I think it's amazing. They've kept the identity of the brand, but you still see his creativity and passion coming through. He's got an amazing eye for vintage clothing. I first met him in around 2004, 2005. He buys incredibly well. We work a lot with his design team now. And this piece, I was really interested. Firstly, I'd say that it's amazing to have the opportunity to have an in-house archive. So you should really take advantage of that, because a lot of colleges don't have that access. So I would really suggest that if there's a way you can sort of use it, maximize it. And then this piece straight away resonated with me, because the lace-up ties, this was a flying suit from our collection. Now, he didn't get the inspiration from this piece, but he must have got it from a very similar piece. This is used very often in science fiction films. We also work a lot with movies and fantasy stuff. But here I really like the way that he's taken the idea of almost like a Victorian corset shirt, but you can see this kind of detail that's lifted from something that's very technical. It's like this was designed for high altitude flying, and he's taken it and created this beautiful women's wear piece. And I love it that when you think, if you think people are using vintage as inspiration, don't think that they're taking something and just copying it or recreating it. Sometimes it can be the smallest aspect of it that they then, sometimes they show me what they do with a garment and I can't see the original, but for the designer, they can see the creativity to come from that original piece. So here you can see a close-up. The left-hand piece is the piece from the archive, and you can see like more in detail the similarity.
So this is the amazing thing about creative people. They can look at something and reinterpret it and find new ways to be able to work with what probably was quite an old idea, then bring it up into something very new and very interesting. Our next piece is Jean-Paul Gaultier. Oh my God, I love that guy. He's French, but he was very English, I feel. He was always in London when I was living in London, and just a wonderful designer. We haven't got the corset piece here, but we do have this in the archive. I think it's been borrowed out at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, so this again, I think for me, it was made famous by the Madonna wearing it, of course, who's just back on the world stage with her recent tour in London. If we go next slide, please. So this I think was really interesting because for me, I like the way, I like to deconstruct pieces. So I look at what designers made and I like to think what was the originality, where were the original ideas coming from? And for me, he's taken almost like a classic trucker detail with this kind of detail here coming down. It just feels like it's copying the Levi's kind of stitch detail. And at the same time, this is a Norfolk jacket, which is a classic British hunting jacket, which was known for this sort of strapping. And so I see that this could be the way, whether he did or not, but whether you can get the inspiration from pieces like this and take things, and what you end up with is nothing like the originals, but it helps designers on their process of creativity, especially if now designers are making so many collections, so many pieces. Anything that helps them shortcut that is amazing.
So the last one we're going to look at today is by Issey Miyake, and he's reinterpreting the chore jacket. The chore jacket is one of those original workwear jackets that we see in all industrial societies when you look back in time, actually. And you know, we've got a great example of a chore jacket here. This is one of the original French ones. And the term blue collar, you know, we always hear, when you're hearing about wage results from the government, they're always talking about blue-collar workers. Well, this is where it came from. It was people wearing these blue jackets to work in. So it's even got this cultural and business reference as blue-collar. And this is just a beautiful jacket. The knots and the fastening on this one, I think, are fascinating. You see, you know, quite often in the West we call this Chinese knot. But in the archive, I learned from Arthur, who's around somewhere, who runs the archive, that this is actually called a frog button.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is my first trip to Hong Kong, so I'm really excited to be here. But on the run up to coming here, I was looking at a few sort of stores that I followed from afar. Like Bryce Lands that have a store in Hong Kong, also a store in London, and the Armory and a few other stores. And I always like the way they play with this kind of high-low culture. So, I mean, if you're working in a factory, it's hard, obviously. You know, the work, like my family were working class people, but I can see there's a romanticization of this workwear, but now it's been turned into luxury items. So you're taking something that was predominantly made for a working person, but it's how you can make it more refined, more tailored, adding in more luxury fabrics or detailing. And I find that kind of interesting, and I think a lot of brands play with that, especially in menswear. And it's a staple, you know, the first speaker, who I thought did an amazing job giving us the tour of the denim mill, had a very great looking tailored chore jacket on, you know, so it was, it's a constant look.
So I would really encourage the students, and all of you really, when you are seeing these amazing products from all these high-end designers and amazing, right, and huge price tags, start thinking, where did they actually get the inspiration from? How did that creative process start? Because if we can learn that, the keys to your future become very easy to find, because you will be able to create things that other people can't. You will see things using your creativity that could be the difference in having an amazing career versus just a normal career. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We've got a good 10, 15 minutes now, so let's get some questions in. Come on, students. Have you guys got any questions for these two denim legends that are right here? Any questions at all? If not, I'm going to ask a question.
Marianne from Redress surely has a question.
Sorry, you're second.
So, I want to ask, since like you're talking about like the creative ideas and the process of, you know, taking from one thing from another, from the past, and then putting it back to the future, right? I was wondering if the creative idea has stopped, because fashion has been here since like the 19th century, and I was thinking about how will the creative process stop one day?
It's interesting question. I mean, do you want to start with that?
I think that the answer is in the title, creative. Creativity never stops. It's what makes humans human. It's the thing that makes us different from every other species out there. Our ability to create and keep doing new things, I think that's why we survive. That's why we grow. That's why we do things. So, no, I believe strongly in creativity. Yes, maybe there's some links to the past, but I think we could sit here in 10 years' time. That's my experience, is that we'd be talking about very different things inspired by very different things. We all need inspiration, that's for sure. But creativity, that's something else.
I think what you're saying is, like, if we're constantly looking at old things for our inspiration, is that because there's nothing fresh? But then, I mean, definitely not every designer is going to use vintage in this way. But even things like my shirts from the 40s, I've used this for fabric development. It's like a cotton linen blend. You know, it's an 80-year-old fabric. These trousers are hemp. No one really was working in the West, in Europe, with hemp. Then it was like, how were fabrics constructed? It could be, so it's not just like designs, it could be like fabrication, it could be washes of jeans. It's very hard to think of a new wash. If you want something that looks authentic, it's easier to look at a pair of jeans that have been worn for like 20, 30 years, have got character. So I don't see it, sometimes I don't really explain, I only explain my business to students really, and I don't really do like press or anything, because whenever I get interviewed, they always try and turn it that designers are lazy, they want to make shortcuts, they just want easy ideas. But that isn't, to me, at all what happens. We're just one of the things that creates a spark in creativity. And I'm lucky that I work with amazing creative minds, and you know, what they use us for is, like, I find it inspiring. I never think, I think it's amazing the journey they go on with their processes. So.
I want to add on there as well. That's why when I talk with students, I talk about the future archive. The past is there, but it's to be built on and to find new ways of doing things and, you know, be famous in the future for doing something exceptional.
I've got a story though, because obviously I've got an archive as well, and I collect and the rest of it. But thing is, there's so much stuff that's being lost as well, and sometimes resources like the Vintage Showroom and others that collect things or document things are super important. Because finding an old historical jacket, which is not many pieces left, or an old, I don't know, green denim piece from the war, or there's not many of them that are left. So to learn from about the fabric and trims and the print, or even what dye they've used, can inform you in the future. So.
Yeah, totally. You know, much as like as a young designer, you should be thinking outside the box and want to create something that no one else has ever created. But there's still definitely lessons to learn. Whether it's construction, you know, whether it's the old machinery, the way people used to cut and sew garments, it's like a wealth of information. So like study, you know, the more curious you are, the more you study garments, I think the more successful you'll be in your careers.
But one more thing to add, like I look at a really old jacket and I see a vintage bar tack. I go to a modern manufacturer asking for that and they haven't got it. So I have to find an old machine to do it. So sometimes that's why I've got so many machines, is because of that purpose. But so you can learn a lot from the past still and be creative and inspire other people. Yeah.
You know, normally at the beginning of a question, when we're not sure what to say, we say, "That's a great question." Actually, that was a great question.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Redress.
I'm trying to think of something challenging, but you're saying the right. What I'm trying to ask, because you're empowering the designers. However, designers are not the only ones that make the decisions. So in order for them to do the best that they can with the knowledge they're getting, to be as creative as they can be, how do they get industry ready? How do they take this creativity and embed it in to suppliers who are so disconnected with the creativity because cost and speed and availability all comes into play? And so how do we educate and close the gap, or can we?
Yeah, I don't think the supply chain is the issue. We can see having all these amazing people in the supply chain willing to do all these different things. It really that responsibility sits inside the brands and how the brands are managed. But I also think it's a little bit, as we talk about sustainability, just to switch a little bit. My generation, guilty of many crimes when it comes to sustainability. And what we see now is companies right at the top setting their science-based goals and coming with initiatives, but then struggling how to filter that down because the skill sets aren't always there in the companies. I strongly believe that education doesn't go in one direction, that as we educate young people now about good values, helping them to make choices, because design is about choices, that the education can flow in both ways, and we can have people going into the companies and helping to change that process and educate in both directions.
I actually do that. I do that very, very job. So I go to brands and I educate designers that are 20, 30 years, even like buyers, on new fiber-like technology.
Youngsters, you mean?
Well, youngsters, yeah, yes, joke there. But yeah, no, it goes both ways. But we need to educate the buyers as well, and the people who are ultimately making the actual decision, especially about fiber technology and better and just better ways of working. Yeah.
The only thing I'll add is the number of times I'll see a designer, they've taken something beautiful from me that they've loved, they've worked it up to a sample that they've loved, they've then taken it and then they've started costing it back, and it gets cut and cut and cut and cut, and then what they end up with, they show me and they like, I hate this. But I'm lucky that a lot of the time we're working with the brands that we work with usually have a lot of time to invest in research, and they've probably got bigger budgets to sort of play around with stuff. So,
in there I'm kind of criticizing that mid-level of management that have been in the company and in their roles maybe 10, 15, 20 years. One of the challenges and it is about having lifelong learning, about having within your career, not stopping learning when you get to your mid-20s, but really continuing to learn. I was not the smartest guy in school. I was not the smartest guy in any of the companies I worked in, but I was open enough to keep learning. And lifelong learning is really, really important. It's the best advice I can give to people. You will be the smartest person in the company if you just keep learning and don't stop, because this industry and all industries are evolving all the time.
Any other questions? I've got a fun question to ask. I'll let you guys think about it. Oh, question? Okay, go.
Thank you. I just want to ask, as a fashion student, I think using old ideas is great, but I always afraid of being accused of being copying or plagiarize some of the old thoughts. So how can we avoid the traps of it to make some outstanding pieces?
Don't copy. You can take inspiration from this seam just here, or this button, or this cuff, and rework things in a completely different way using your creativity. I think you were saying it earlier, Doug, about the John Galliano jacket. Yeah. There are times when the designers come back and say to Doug, oh, this is what we did with that idea when we were with you 6 months ago. And you cannot recognize that product.
Yeah. I think two things. I think, like, don't say copy, say inspired by. Like, everyone gets inspiration. So it's like, and be honest. If you're literally, a lot of the designers and brands we work with want to come back to me for archetypes. So they want to see what was the trench coat 100 years ago? What was the first trench coats? What were the origins of the parkas? How have they developed from like the 1950s to the 1980s? So they're looking at tracing back to the origin garments and then putting their own take on it. Because you think how many times, for me, if I go into any shop, I see the same, especially in menswear, I see pea coats, I see polo, you know, it's all things that you know where the origins were. So I don't think you should be afraid to play with archetypes, but definitely as a designer, create your own personality and put your own personal take on them. And don't be afraid to say, this is what I found inspiring. Because I think, especially, like if you go on to like degree, I think that's the problem a lot of when we work with, you know, BA courses, MA courses, the lecturers want to know what was your inspiration, what were you know, what were your source materials for this idea. So, yeah.
I'll give you one example. Like Levi's have been around for 150 years. They're still making jeans, but they keep on reinventing those jeans, changing the fits, adding darts, changing the thread, changing the dye method. So it's just tweaking it. It still looks like the original jean, so you know they're still getting inspired. So yeah, but yeah, get inspired. Don't use the word copy. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions? Oh, no more questions? I've got one thing to add. It was really funny. Funny question. I've been in many companies, and I have horrible bosses who buy expensive samples and cut them for fabric reference. And I had a policy in my own company, if anyone cut anything, they're instantly fired. Fired. Instantly. Banned. Because I had a story at a company, I won't mention the company, but it was a 100-year-old sweat, beautiful sweat quality, and my boss threw it at me and he goes, work out how it's made. So I got a pick glass out, I was looking at it, and then he looked at me really frustrated, got a pair of scissors and just hacked it. And he goes, send it to the supplier. So that 100-year-old sweat is now pretty much like gone. It's like destroyed now, which is shocking, right? Doug, any thoughts on?
Yeah, I mean, if we've worked a lot with big brands on archive projects over the years, from like Abercrombie and Fitch to Canada Goose to Burberry, and I think if we're working closely, like sometimes it's an easy shortcut. If it's like a great pair of jeans and they want to show the laundry a wash, to me, it's too lazy just to cut a garment and send it. So we definitely try and encourage people not to, you know, my whole business is on preserving things.
Exactly.
We also buy back archives from brands. Sometimes they run out of space. They just don't want things anymore. And it is heartbreaking when we get garments back that have been cut. But it's like, I think it's important, especially like if you're buying like really rare pieces, you've got to respect that. But that only comes down if people are explaining that to, because if you send a, you know, a lot of the time they'll send a junior to cut an interesting color swatch from something, they don't know that the piece they're looking at, it could be a $5 sweat, it could be a $1,000 sweat. So it's just about education and respect for old things, I think, yeah.
Don't cut anything, it's very lazy.
I got a story I've got to share with you, sorry. So when I was at H&M, my assistant, I got a very young new assistant who is now on the board of directors there, so I can't say the name. In her first week, we came back from a trip to LA and we had hundreds of samples and they were all in cupboards. And she went and cut the backs out of everything to thinking she was going to help us make the color card. She got the wrong wardrobe. It was everybody's personal clothing.
Oh.
So don't cut.
Don't cut. Thank you so much, guys. That was an awesome presentation. And
thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Everyone.
Okay, we're on to our final part of the program now. Can I invite, is it called Alajan and Dinio from Atelier Reserve. I'm sorry if I butchered your names. So yeah, if you come on the stage, that would be awesome.
Hello, thank you for having us. We're gonna talk less than the guys before us. Um, we are Atelier Reservé from Amsterdam, a company that exists now for 7 years. We were very good friends, and this is actually a nice story for Dorino to tell. Dorino's the designer. I started as a photographer and a graphic designer, and now I'm doing creative in the company. And we met through private circumstances, and now we're business partners.
Yeah, so I was actually a student like most of you guys. His sister and I were in the same class, and we were a lot involved with many courses and everything. And she always said, you have to do something together. And we actually ended up doing something also with Denim Days in Amsterdam. Was our first thing in 2015. And from then on, we just started in a small space. We started making beautiful garments for ourselves at first, but then we got a lot of attention from like Vogue, those sort of magazines, and they asked us what's the name of the brand, and we said it doesn't have a name. So yeah, we thought about it, and then we thought, hey, we could take the leap, get out of our old jobs, and just start something together, and that's how we started with the brand, actually.
So these are some images from our own studio. We have a very messy studio, but everybody likes it. People like to really come by and go through stuff, and like you guys are saying, I think you recognize if you have a lot of stock and you have a lot of inspiration. We have our own vintage archive that we're also not like only used for inspiration, or we're using just for having it and cannot get rid of it. And also pieces in the beginning when you start a brand and you only have 5 garments, or so it's very difficult to sell one or to give one away. And then when you start getting bigger, then you can become a brand and say, okay, I can sell some pieces in London, or I can sell some pieces in New York or so. This was a photo shoot we did a couple of weeks ago. For example, the garment, this is really a style that we do a lot. We recut a lot of old fabrics we buy. We go to wholesalers and ask to buy like 200 old football jerseys and make garments out of it. We always work with old garments, and we always work with we make everything ourselves. We have 2 collections. We have a Atelier collection is made in-house in Amsterdam, and we have ready-to-wear that are t-shirts, and of course we do that in for example, Portugal, sometimes in China as well, and we always guide that 100%. Collaboration with New Balance, also same technique again. Maybe you want to say something about the movie? Oh, because it was in Dutch. Well, oh, there we go.
So the movie on your right, it was actually for the Vogue. We had a show coming up, and we had like a muse for the show. So we had to how do you say it? We showed our process, like how we work in the studio, how we take things apart, and where our inspiration comes from, and also the methods that we use to actually come up with the garments that you can see on the left side. You see a jacket made out of shoes and leather we got from a company called Eco Leather. They really help us as a young brand to do inspirational things, like they don't throw away their old rejected leather hides. They ask us, can you do something with the defected materials? And we say, yeah, of course. And then we come up with these things. So we don't have to pay a lot. Actually, we pay nothing. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm explaining so you don't hear the sound, but I'm explaining what we're what we're doing. Yeah. And what you see here was our first Fashion Week show. It was last year, and we tried to invite not only our friends and family, but also people from the business, like competitors, colleagues, people we worked with throughout the years. And we tried to involve everyone as a part of the show. Like the audience was also part of the show, and people out of the audience started dancing, and they were having like a Last Supper kind of theme in the middle. The DJ was
also at the table.
Yeah, he was sitting at the table.
So the concept was more about when you expect a fashion show, you think of a runway, you think of technical things, and we just had a dining table with some food and some music, and everybody could just join, and people came in, and it was just a party. And we also had a sponsor that was like more into what was it, Budweiser, and so it was more initiated by doing something different. And for us, it was very important to show more a lifestyle and a feeling what we want to show with our brand, instead of very technical things, or having a runway and having the perfect models, the perfect sizes, and things like that. So it was more about community. Everybody that was here, we was like from the industry or so. These are some pieces that we made, that collection.
And actually, you can see we use a lot of vintage denim. Also Levi's. Levi's helps us a lot. They also send us old rejected materials and garments.
Sorry for cutting the AV on the right. It was used to be my own bands, and it was too small, so I paid for it. That was a bit with the vibe. You want to say something about the next show?
So the first movie you saw was our first show, and this is actually at the end of our last show. In the last show, we tried to bring out the concept more and more show the collection and the fabric. So we actually did a runway, but in an unusual space. And the space was on a rooftop of Advance building. And that company has nothing to do with fashion, but they do like payments for a lot of companies. But they try to support us and show that they can also be sustainable in a way, like using this space.
And also, we came up with the concept that when this show was on, a new payment system came from Apple that you could pay directly with your phone, and you could buy directly a garment from the show, at the show, after the show. So that was also something that we came up with ourselves, and like this, the same was for the show before. So we always, like with collections, but also with events, we really try to work what we have. For me, creativity starts when you have less. Like when you have everything, you can do whatever you want, but that says nothing about your creativity. So that's really the concept of this brand. Like if you have a piece of, we would love to go to markets here and buy stuff and just create something. We're probably gonna do that in a couple of days at the Kingpins. So this is the show. This was different.
Yeah, so this was our last show. It was in beginning of September. And the concept we tried to explain was discomfort. Like every person has a form of discomfort. It could be your age or it could be your gender or whatever. But we tried to show it with the clothing. And what I did was actually making all of the garments in one size. So as you can see, like models were different lengths, different body shapes, but everyone could wear every item in the collection. So yeah.
But also the mentally, so the idea of being discomfort, we used people from the street, we used friends, like for example, she is a transgender. We know the whole transition of this person, and we respect that. And we had people with, for example, somebody also from Ukraine, and she just was here as a refugee, and we gave her a platform to show her profession into our show. So everything was more about the feeling, about the people, and not about us. Everything is already there. So. This is something we started a year ago. We're from Amsterdam. Miffy Nanch is very popular here, I see, as well in Hong Kong, also in Japan. We sold a lot in Japan as well, so we were really connected with this icon. And finally this year we had a license from Miffy, and we started making them all from old fabrics. Levi's supported us with stock pants they had somewhere, and so we make these one of a kinds, and it's really like it was a success, right? We even made bags. I have one with me, and to make this complete as a company, we donated. This is the movie. We made this really large-scale Miffy, and oh, it's nice with the music, huh? and we donated this Miffy to a how do you say it?
A hospital and the children's hospital. It's called Emma Children's Hospital. Yeah.
Is this the studio? You can imagine how heavy this one was, huh? Thank you very much. I hope you guys have some questions for us.
Thank you so much. I have the first question. So you guys are a non-conforming sustainable brand. So what non-conforming as in the fabrics you use, the like non-conforming like techniques of how you make your collections? What does that mean to you? Saying that, so having that word.
Like I said before, for us it means working with less, but also producing less is for me something very important. It's so simple. If you have a smaller company, you can produce less, and you can also pay, like you have less bills. You know, you have a smaller building, you have less employees, and you're making a difference between actually offering something for the same money as a luxury brand, but you have a unique piece. You know, for us, having something unique is more important than having it for a bigger group that decided that it's something from Louis Vuitton or it's something from a luxury brand that gives you status. So that's where it came from.
Nice. Would you like to add anything? No?
Yeah, but also doing it in your own pace. Like, we don't really work with seasons.
Yeah.
So we can also, we can present something in the winter, but they're shorts. So
I think like seasonless clothing is becoming quite normal, even in the mainstream now. It's getting quite complicated. When the garments come out, they're in the wrong season anyway, so it's all messed up. So yeah,
but
a
also
non-season approach.
Our main thing is also unisex. So actually, men and women could wear the same item. Yeah.
If you take out the problems such as seasonless, unisex, then you don't have to think about all these things, you know,
exactly.
like when and where and deadlines. Of course, we work with deadlines. We were on time here, but like deadlines with collections, I hate it. That's the worst thing. Like because at one point you can think, why? It doesn't make sense. Why do we have to be on time for a season?
Especially if you're being creative and you're in the zone and you have to finish a certain job by a certain time. Yeah, I can understand that. Really commendable what you guys are doing, really commendable, and obviously very inspiring as well for these younger designers to see that it is possible to take even waste product or like rejected products and make something quite luxurious from it as well. So yeah, so well done to you.
This is the most important thing, to show that, you know, the word, I don't know if I like the word cool, but like it's important to show that used products are also cool. I remember when we started, it was called organic, or it was called green, or it was called, and you were thinking about these socks or people making stuff at home, and we still stayed committed. You know, we could have gone to, Durinho as a designer could have gone to a company, Tommy Hilfiger, I don't know what, you know, but we just believed in ourselves, and now we can do whatever we want.
That's the beauty of working for yourself. You can, if you can finance yourself, then that's it. Amazing. Oh, thank you so much. First of all, any more questions? Any questions at all from the students here? Oh, Doug's got a question.
I love that, but I love the Diana artwork, and I was just curious because it's probably I love the picture of you guys with the big fabric. So do you use that imagery a lot? And I was just curious, like, because I'm British, I'm not a monarchist, I'm a Republican at heart, but Diana meant something to me. I just wondered why you guys from the Netherlands, why Diana particularly? Was there?
Yeah, we also grew up with the story, but I think he can explain it a bit better because he is in the art direction and the graphic department.
I made it.
And I could explain
Can
it,
I
but
buy one?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, 100%. So this artwork came with the collection of Discomfort, and for me, I knew it was coming because we had an interview with some magazines, and they were asking, "What is discomfort for you? What is discomfort for you?" But this was for me discomfort as something I really love, and I think that it would take over. That sometimes you hope that love can conquer, and for me was this. You know, I didn't grow up with the British how do you say it, royal house, but for me she was the most important person. I always liked the underdog or stuff that people are like, you need to fight for something, you know. So that's where the artwork stands for, and of course changing the crown was the idea of showing for us that's important, you know. People of the what do you say it? A person of the public, and that's also something that we stand for.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us like all the way out here in like Hong Kong as well. And thank you for your time as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pleasure. I think many people want to buy that Miffy. They want to buy some of your products, I'm sure. Thank you so much. So guys, that's a wrap on this. But I just want to thank, first of all, the Transformers Foundation. I want to thank Hong Kong Design Institute, the Hong Kong Design Festival. And also, if any of you have got questions from today, anything you wanted to ask the foundation, there's no dumb question. We have a really amazing section on our website. You can click and you can ask a question. Anything, fiber, sustainability, any concerns, a specialist will come back to you with an answer. So yeah, do send your questions. There's no dumb question. So hope I haven't missed anyone out. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining us, and do stick around for the festival. There's Hong Kong. There's also Kingpin show for the next 2 days, and there's things going on as well later on. So yeah, there's lots more activities for the next for this week coming. Thank you so much. I've been Mohsin. Thank you again.